Steve Harvey had hosted thousands of Family Feud episodes, expertly navigating outrageous answers and unexpected moments with his trademark humor. But on a special Kids vs. Parents edition filmed in Atlanta in May 2023, something happened that left even the veteran host completely stunned. 8-year-old Liam Parker, a bright-eyed second grader from Nashville, gave an answer so innocent yet so profound that it silenced the typically boisterous studio. Steve's reaction was unprecedented. He immediately called for a production pause, pulled out his phone, and dialed his 9-1-year-old mother. What began as simple family entertainment transformed into a powerful moment that would remind millions of viewers about the wisdom that sometimes comes from our youngest voices, and how a child's perspective can pierce through the noise of adult life to illuminate what truly matters. Liam Parker was an ordinary 8-year-old in most respects, with tousled brown hair that refused to stay combed, a spattering of freckles across his nose, and 2 front teeth just growing in after losing his baby teeth. He embodied boyhood energy, dressed in his Sunday best khaki pants, a blue button-down shirt, and a clip-on tie that he'd proudly selected himself. Liam fidgeted at the Family Feud podium, occasionally needing gentle reminders from his mother to stand still. The Parker family had been selected for the special Kids vs. Parents edition after Liam's father, Daniel, submitted an application highlighting their family's multi-generational commitment to education. Daniel taught high school physics, his wife Rebecca was an elementary school librarian, and his mother Eleanor had recently retired after 40 years of teaching 3rd grade in Nashville's public school system. The family team included Daniel and Rebecca, Eleanor and Liam, alongside his 10-year-old sister Emma. What the producers hadn't known when selecting the Parker family was that they were navigating a particularly challenging chapter. 6 months earlier, Rebecca had been diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. While her prognosis was good, the rigorous treatment schedule had disrupted their family routine. Daniel had taken a semester's leave to manage the household. Eleanor had moved in temporarily to help with the children, and the family's finances had been strained by medical expenses not covered by insurance. Throughout this difficult period, Liam had shown remarkable resilience and emotional maturity for his age. While his parents had initially tried to shield him from the full reality of his mother's illness, they'd ultimately opted for age-appropriate honesty, explaining the treatments and answering his questions as clearly as possible. Liam had responded by becoming what his grandmother called the family's little light, creating hand-drawn get-well cards, offering spontaneous hugs when his mother seemed tired, and maintaining his characteristic optimism even on the hardest days. The Family Feud opportunity had come at a perfect time. Rebecca had just completed her final round of chemotherapy, and the all-expenses-paid trip to Atlanta represented a celebratory milestone. For Liam, the excitement of being on television had temporarily overshadowed the challenges of the past months. As he stood at the podium, his natural exuberance had returned in full force. "You ready to play, young man?" Steve Harvey asked, kneeling slightly to meet Liam at eye level during the pre-show introductions. "Yes, sir," Liam replied, his voice carrying the slight southern lilt characteristic of Nashville natives. "My teacher, Miss Johnson, is recording it for our whole class to watch on Monday." "Well, we better make sure you look good then," Steve responded with a warm smile. "Any special strategy for the game?" Liam nodded seriously. "Grandma Eleanor says to speak clearly and tell the truth. She says that's always the best strategy for everything." Steve chuckled, straightening up to address the audience. "Folks, I think we could all learn something from Grandma Eleanor." As the game began, none of the production team, audience members, or even the Parker family themselves could have anticipated how prophetic Steve's casual remark would prove to be. The Kids vs. Parents special had a unique format. Children and adults from the same family competed against each other, with questions designed to highlight the generation gap in perspectives. The Parker adults, Daniel, Rebecca, and Eleanor, faced off against the children, Liam, his sister Emma, and their 10-year-old cousin Tyler, who had joined them for the show. The game had been lively and competitive, with the adults narrowly leading after 3 rounds. During the commercial break before the 4th round, The producers decided to increase the dramatic tension by implementing a double points rule, giving the children a chance to overtake their parents. As the cameras began rolling again, Steve Harvey addressed the audience with his characteristic energy. "Welcome back, folks. We've got a real nail-biter here between the Parker adults and kids. This round is worth double points, which means these youngsters still have a shot at victory." He approached the podiums where Liam and his father Daniel stood facing each other. "For this special face-off, we've got father versus son. Daniel and Liam, are you ready?" Both nodded, Daniel with a competitive grin, and Liam with intense concentration. The question category appeared on the board: Life Lessons. "Here we go," Steve announced. "We surveyed 100 adults. Top 5 answers on the board. Name something that becomes more valuable as you get older." Daniel slapped the buzzer first. "Investments," he answered confidently. "Show me investments," Steve called out. The board revealed financial security divided by savings as the number 2 answer with 22 points. The adult team cheered as Daniel chose to play rather than pass to the children. Rebecca was next. "Free time," she offered. "Free time," Steve repeated, and the board showed it as the number 3 answer with 18 points. Eleanor followed with good health, which appeared as the top answer with 35 points. The adults were dominating, with 3 of the 5 answers revealed, and 75 points accumulated. The children would need to provide the remaining answers to stay in the game. It was now the children's turn to guess the remaining answers. Emma suggested friends, which appeared as the 4th answer with 14 points. Then Tyler offered memories, only to receive the first strike for the children as it wasn't among the top 5 answers. The pressure mounted as all eyes turned to Liam. At 8 years old, he was the youngest contestant on the stage, and the children's chances now rested on his small shoulders. "All right, young man," Steve said gently, recognizing Liam's nervousness. "What do you think becomes more valuable as you get older?" Liam paused, his forehead wrinkling in concentration. The studio fell quiet as everyone waited. Then, in a clear voice that carried throughout the silent studio, he answered, "Your mother's voice." Steve Harvey froze mid-gesture, his trademark reaction card halfway to his mouth. For several seconds he said nothing, staring at Liam with an expression of profound surprise. The usual studio laughter didn't materialize. Instead, a hush fell over the audience, the unexpected depth of the child's answer catching everyone off guard. Rebecca Parker, standing at her podium, brought her hand to her mouth, tears instantly welling in her eyes. Eleanor, the grandmother who had been living with the family during Rebecca's cancer treatments, reached across to squeeze her daughter-in-law's shoulder. Steve finally lowered his card, his usual quick wit abandoned as he struggled to maintain his composure. "Your mother's voice," he repeated quietly, almost to himself rather than to the audience. He turned toward the board, but instead of his usual, enthusiastic, "Show me your mother's voice," he simply nodded, seemingly unable to speak. The board remained unchanged for several seconds, an eternity in television time, before finally revealing family relationships divided by parents as the 5th answer, worth 11 points. But Steve Harvey wasn't looking at the board. He had turned away from the cameras, pulling a handkerchief from his pocket to dab at his eyes. When he finally faced the audience again, his expression had transformed from entertainment professional to simply a man deeply moved. "I'm sorry, folks," he said, his voice uncharacteristically subdued, "but we need to take a moment here." Without explaining further, Steve walked off his mark, something he never did during taping. He approached the production area, spoke briefly to the executive producer, and then, in an unprecedented break from protocol, pulled out his cell phone. The red recording lights remained on, capturing this unscripted moment as Steve dialed a number and waited. The microphones picked up his side of the conversation. "Mama?" "It's Steve," he said, his voice carrying in the silent studio. "I know I'm supposed to be filming right now, but something just happened that I had to share with you." The studio remained in stunned silence as Steve Harvey, one of television's most professional hosts, broke every production rule by making a personal call during filming. The cameras continued to roll, capturing this raw, unscripted moment that no one, including the producers, had anticipated. "Mama, this 8-year-old boy just said something that stopped me cold," Steve continued, his back partially turned to the audience as he sought a moment of privacy while still wearing his live microphone. "They asked what becomes more valuable as you get older, and he said your mother's voice." Steve listened for a moment, nodding. "Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what I thought, too." He listened again, longer this time, occasionally murmuring agreement. The audience remained perfectly still, collective breath held as they witnessed this intimate moment between mother and son. "I love you too, Mama. I'll call you properly tonight," Steve finally said. "I've got to get back to these good folks now." As he ended the call, Steve stood motionless for several seconds, gathering himself before turning back to face the audience and contestants. When he finally did, the consummate entertainer had been replaced by something more authentic, a son remembering he was still someone's child. Steve walked directly to Liam, kneeling down to the boy's eye level. "Young man," he said, his voice gentle but carrying clearly through his microphone. "Do you know why your answer hit me so hard?" Liam shook his head, looking slightly concerned that he might have done something wrong. "Because at 66 years old, I still call my mama every single day just to hear her voice," Steve explained. "She's 91 now. And you're right, her voice has become more valuable to me with every passing year." He straightened up, addressing the audience, but keeping one hand reassuringly on Liam's shoulder. "Folks, we've been doing this show for a long time. We've had funny answers, surprising answers, even shocking answers. But I don't know if we've ever had an answer with more wisdom packed into 4 simple words." Steve turned to the producers off camera. "I know this isn't how we usually do things, but I'd like to take a moment to hear from this young man. Liam, would you mind telling us what made you think of that answer?" The camera zoomed in on Liam, who looked momentarily startled at being the center of attention in this unexpected way. He glanced at his mother, who nodded encouragingly through her tears. "Well," Liam began, his voice small but clear. "When Mom got sick, sometimes she was too tired to get out of bed. But she would still call to me from her room to say good morning and good night. And Grandma Eleanor said that even though Mom's body needed to rest, her voice could still give us hugs from far away." The studio remained silent, but now it was a different kind of silence, not shocked, but reverent. "During the really hard days of chemo," Liam continued, warming to his subject as children often do when given genuine attention, "Dad recorded Mom reading my bedtime stories so I could hear her voice even when she was in the hospital. And I realized that even when I'm a grown-up like you, Mr. Harvey, I'll probably still want to hear my mom call my name." Rebecca Parker was openly weeping now, as was Eleanor. Daniel stood with one arm around each of them, his own eyes glistening. Steve took a deep breath, visibly moved. "Liam, in all my years hosting this show, that might be the wisest answer I've ever heard. And I've got something I want to tell all of you watching at home." He faced the main camera directly. "We come on television to play games, have some laughs, maybe win some money. But sometimes, God uses the most unexpected moments to remind us of what really matters. If you're lucky enough to still have your mother with you, call her tonight. Don't wait. Because this young man is absolutely right, that voice becomes more precious with every passing year." Turning back to the contestants, Steve made another unprecedented decision. "Now, technically, the Parker adults have won this round. But I'm going to use my host's privilege today. This game is ending in a tie. Both teams will play fast money, and whatever amount they win will be combined." The producer began to approach, likely to remind Steve of the show's rules and budget constraints, but Steve held up his hand. "And I'm personally doubling whatever they win today." The audience erupted in applause, the emotional tension finding release in celebration. The Parker family looked stunned, with Daniel mouthing "thank you" over his children's heads. "But before we move to fast money," Steve continued once the applause had subsided, "I want to acknowledge something special here. Rebecca Parker, Liam's mom, completed her final chemotherapy treatment just 2 weeks ago." The audience gasped, then burst into renewed applause, many rising to their feet. This family came here today not for recognition or sympathy, but to celebrate a milestone in their journey, Steve explained. And I think we can all agree they've given us far more than just entertainment. Steve turned to Liam once more. Young man, thank you for the reminder that sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the youngest hearts. And, Mrs. Parker, he addressed Rebecca directly. Your son has clearly been listening to the most important voice in his life. That tells me everything I need to know about the kind of mother you are. In that moment, what had begun as a light-hearted family game show had transformed into something far more meaningful. A reminder of the enduring bond between mothers and children, the wisdom that can emerge from difficult journeys, and how a child's perspective can cut through complexity to illuminate essential truths. The episode featuring the Parker family aired 3 months after filming, carefully edited to preserve the authentic emotional impact while respecting the family's dignity. The producers, initially concerned about breaking from the show's lighthearted format, ultimately recognized they had captured something extraordinary, a genuine human moment that transcended entertainment. The public response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours of airing, "Number Your Mother's Voice" was trending nationwide. Social media platforms filled with stories of adults calling their mothers after watching, some reconnecting after years of distance. Phone companies reported a noticeable spike in long-distance calls that evening, particularly to numbers associated with older adults. For the Parker family, the impact extended far beyond their television appearance. The prize money doubled by Steve Harvey's personal contribution provided welcome relief from the medical bills that had accumulated during Rebecca's treatment. But more meaningful was the outpouring of support they received. Letters arrived by the thousands from cancer survivors sharing their own journeys, from children who had watched parents go through illness, and from elderly mothers grateful for renewed connections with their adult children. A local Nashville company specializing in personalized audio recordings offered to create free voice libraries for patients undergoing cancer treatment, inspired by Daniel's recordings of Rebecca reading bedtime stories. Rebecca Parker's oncologist called 2 weeks after the episode aired to share that several patients had mentioned the show during appointments. They're asking about recording their voices for their children, the doctor explained. Your family has given them a beautiful way to maintain connection during treatment. Liam, initially unaware of the profound impact of his answer, gradually came to understand its significance as he observed the changes in his family and community. His elementary school implemented a Voice Messages of Hope program, where students recorded encouraging words for children in the cancer ward at Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. 6 months after the episode aired, Steve Harvey invited the Parker family to participate in a special follow-up segment. The reunion, filmed in Nashville rather than requiring the family to travel, revealed Rebecca in much improved health, her hair beginning to grow back in soft curls that Liam proudly declared even prettier than before. During the segment, Steve shared how Liam's answer had affected his own life. I've always called my mother regularly, he explained, but now I record those calls sometimes, preserving her wisdom, her laughter, even her scolding me about my diet. He chuckled. At 91, she still thinks she needs to remind me to eat my vegetables. The segment also revealed an unexpected development. Eleanor Parker, the grandmother whose wisdom had guided Liam's memorable answer, had begun working with a national cancer support organization, helping develop resources for families communicating with young children about illness. For 40 years, I taught third graders about math and reading, Eleanor explained during the interview. Now, in my retirement, I'm learning from my grandson about something much more fundamental. How to speak truth from the heart, even about difficult things. Perhaps the most significant impact emerged through the creation of the Mother's Voice Project, a national initiative launched collaboratively by Family Feud's production company and the American Cancer Society. The program provided recording equipment to treatment centers across the country, allowing parents undergoing cancer treatment to create audio libraries for their children. Bedtime stories, messages of encouragement, everyday conversations preserved for times when physical presence might not be possible. On the 1-year anniversary of the episode's airing, a follow-up documentary aired on a major network exploring the ripple effects of Liam's 4 simple words. The documentary featured families who had participated in the Mother's Voice project, oncology teams who had incorporated voice recording into their patient support services, and communications researchers studying the unique comfort provided by familiar voices during times of separation. Liam, now 9 and considerably more comfortable on camera, participated in the documentary with the straightforward wisdom that had captured hearts the previous year. When asked if he understood the impact he'd had, he responded with characteristic simplicity. "I just said what was true for me. Mom's voice helped me be brave when I was scared. I think everybody needs that sometimes, even grown-ups." The documentary also revealed that Steve Harvey had established a college scholarship fund for Liam and Emma Parker, ensuring that their education would be secured regardless of what medical challenges might lie ahead for their family. "These children have taught us about resilience and wisdom beyond their years," Steve explained. "The least we can do is make sure their future opportunities are not limited by the challenges they've faced." For Rebecca Parker, now in remission and back to her work at the elementary school library, the experience had transformed her relationship with her own voice. "Before my diagnosis, I never thought twice about reading stories aloud or calling the children's names," she reflected during the documentary. "Now I understand these everyday moments as profound gifts not just for my children, but for myself. Liam helped me recognize the power of simply being present, even if only through my voice." The Parker family's journey from a simple game show appearance to the center of a national conversation about connection, presence, and communication during crisis illustrated the unpredictable ways that authentic moments can resonate. What began with a child's innocent observation about his mother's voice had expanded into a movement that changed how families navigated illness, how medical professionals approached patient support, and how a veteran television host thought about his own relationship with his aging mother. As Steve Harvey would later write in his memoir, "Throughout my career, I've been blessed with many memorable moments, but none has affected me more deeply than when an 8-year-old boy reminded all of us that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the simplest. The voice of someone who loves you, calling your name across whatever distances life puts between you." The story of Liam Parker's answer and Steve Harvey's response continued to be shared in cancer support groups, parenting workshops, and communications classes. For years afterward, a testament to how a moment of genuine human connection can transcend entertainment to touch something universal in us all.